Hey everybody, how's it going? I would like you to bear with me for a moment if you live in the state of Montana. I know what you're probably thinking. This guy lives and was born in New York City. He has never planted, so much as a flower, much less run a farm. Why should I give a crap what he has to say about my home state, my politics, my politicians, my business? Fair point. I understand, and I would understand your skepticism. That being said, if you're able to listen to just a couple of the points in this video, I would highly appreciate it. Now, when it comes to the right to repair bill in Montana and the agricultural right to repair bills that are being pushed forward, these are gaining steam and traction because there's a lot of farming that goes on in Montana. There's a lot more farming going on in Montana than there is in New York City. It is something that is important to farmers that they're able to fix their own tractors. And sometimes when I speak about politicians in this channel or certain people that I believe are being willfully deceptive, I speak in a very bombastic way. I'm kind of angry or agitated sounding, or, sometimes people may portray what I'm saying as mean-spirited. And point taken, one of the things that makes it very difficult for me to speak in a calm and collected way is that I believe that there are politicians and there are lobbyists and there are people that are willfully deceitful, that are willfully malicious, and are no problem lying to your face in order to get something across. And I respect people that disagree with me. I can have a conversation with someone who disagrees with me for a very long period of time, going back and forth in a civil way. But it's very difficult for me to have that type of civility when I believe that someone is just trying to pull the wool over my eyes and fuck with me. So I apologize if this does not come off very well in this video. So this article from Vice says that John Deere-backed lobbying groups host an anti-right to repair conference. State legislators and industry lobbyists gathered at a mountain resort to explain to themselves why farmers don't need right to repair laws. Montana attempted to pass 3 different versions of the right to repair in the past few years, and none have passed. State Senator Ryan Usmanson, a farmer himself, had proposed draft legislation to help make it easier for people to fix their own equipment after his constituents sounded the alarm. He later let the legislation die. So let's take a look at this. So this state senator has worked on a farm, and he proposed right to repair legislation. He drafted it, and then he let it die. So let's talk about why he let that die, what he was saying about it. So he said that he dropped the bill. That brought out a lot of folks that were concerned about it, and rightfully so. And the association came to me and said, hey, we're working on this issue. We're trying to get these diagnostic tools you're asking for to the consumer. And so through that and through the discussions I had with the Manufacturers Association, robust conversations with the Manufacturers Association, I went ahead and did not move that bill forward. So let's figure out what he was saying about it. There were things in that legislation that were ... I mean, they had to sell parts at cost, Usmanson said. I mean, as a business owner, I know that doesn't work. So he's opposed to the fact that the bill said that you had to sell parts at cost. And he was the one that drafted the bill. So I prefer not to trust Vice. Will you forgive me if I just don't trust Vice as a newspaper and I go to the actual source material for myself? To be fair, if it's CNN, MSNBC, Fox, Breitbart, New York Times, I like to read the source material. So I thought to myself, let's check the source material. Let's actually go to the text of the bill. So we're going to read that here. This is Senate Bill number 273, 67th Legislature. And again, I'm not going to read the entire thing because there's just a lot of stuff in here that really doesn't pertain to the one particular point that I want to discuss. So I want to go to the part that has to do with price. So let's go to the part that has to do with price. Okay, we're going to find that here. Fair in reasonable terms means costs in terms that are equivalent to the most favorable costs in terms under which an original equipment manufacturer offers the documentation, part, or tool to an authorized repair provider, less any discounts, rebates, or other incentive programs. In other words, if I make a part, and I make that, let's say I make a charge port. Let's say this thing is 10 cents, right? Let's say this thing's 10 cents, costs 10 cents to manufacture. And I sell this charge port for $20 to my authorized dealer. If you wish to buy this part, and this bill makes it available, it means that I cannot sell this part to you for $20,000. I can't get around the bill by telling you that this part that's 10 cents is $20,000. If I'm selling this part to my own authorized dealers for $20, then I got to sell it to you for something in the realm of $20. Now, you may disagree. You may think that it makes total sense for the manufacturer to restrict the parts to the point where they don't sell it to anybody. And if the bill forces them to make these parts available for sale so that you can fix your stuff, then by golly, they should cost $20,000. Okay, we may have a disagreement there in philosophy. Does that mean that this bill says that you have to sell things at cost? No. It would be impossible to read this bill and take away the interpretation that the manufacturer has to sell a part at cost. It specifically says that if you are going to make that part available to someone who is authorized to fix it, then you cannot make it available at a price that's 100 or 200 or 10,000 times more to a farmer. That's not the same as selling something at cost. If this costs 10 cents and I sell it to my authorized dealer for 20 bucks, what that means is that you would be selling it to the customers or the other repair shops that are not authorized for around 20 bucks. It doesn't say at cost. Now, this would be one thing if it was someone who didn't understand the legislation, but you drafted this legislation. You drafted this bill. Now, again, I grew up in New York City. I went to a public school in New York City. My reading comprehension's not all that. But nothing in this bill, if you read through the entirety of it, said that you have to sell anything to anybody at cost. And it's very difficult for me to believe that when I read something like this, that this was done in good faith. It would be one thing if it was someone who hadn't read the bill. Hell, it would be one thing if it was someone who hadn't drafted the bill. But when you say, I drafted this bill, here's the bill, I drafted it. And then you go into the news and you say, yeah, the reason I didn't go ahead with it is because the bill was saying all this kind of crazy stuff that it doesn't actually say, which you should know because you drafted it. That seems kind of fishy to me. I'm sorry, it seems incredibly fishy to me, and it's very difficult for me to engage in these in an honest way. It's very difficult for me to engage believing that the other person is coming from a point of good faith, of just simply disagreeing with me, and not that there's some sort of fuckery going on, because again, I'm reading the exact same document that you are. There's nothing in this bill that says that you have to sell the parts at cost. It simply says that you can't charge the customer considerably more than what you're charging the dealer. And this doesn't even mean that people would not still go to a dealer. If the manufacturer sells you parts, but it takes a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get them, and the dealer sells it, but the dealer costs way more money, and the dealer can get it to you in the next 10 minutes and may even deliver it to you, you're probably still going to go to the dealer. In agriculture, time is money, and it is incredibly, incredibly important for people that need their stuff up and running in the first place. It's really difficult for me to believe that these types of things are happening in good faith. And I really do want to believe that the people who disagree with me on the concept of right to repair disagree based on philosophy, based on principle, but not based on this type of shit. Not based on this whole, I had a meeting with the Manufacturers Association, and right after I had a meeting with the Manufacturers Association, I forgot to text in my own bill. Whoopsie, my bad. I forgot to take my Reminol this morning. I didn't notice that my bill said that we have to sell parts at cost. You didn't write it in there. Oh, come on. Come on. You got to be able to do better than that. I live in a state with some fairly corrupt politics, but it's I expect better from the rest of the country. I want to see better from the rest of the country. Don't degrade yourself to a New York City level of corruption in politics. Continuing in the article, Flint also decried right to repair legislation for being government interference in the market. There were provisions being inserted that were basically government-mandated price controls where they were forcing private companies to give up their supplies at cost, Flint said. Again, are we reading the same bill? These are pretty standard anti-repair talking points that simply don't reflect what right to repair advocates have been asking for. It says here, those familiar with the legislation have told Motherboard that right to repair legislation never attempted to do this. And again, I wouldn't even use the line, those familiar with the legislation. I would just link to the bill. I would just show the text and let people read it for themselves and see it. They said this is more smoke and mirrors from the parties that are making money hand over fist while farmers struggle to fix their tractors. Spot on! Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. And if you are somebody who lives in the state of Montana, I'd highly appreciate if you could speak to your local representatives about this bill. I'd highly appreciate if you could speak to them about these concerns and why these concerns are simply not true as per the text drafted in the bill. Again, I live in Brooklyn. I grew up in New York City. Something tells me that me stepping into a Montana state legislature, they're just not going to listen to me the same way they're going to listen to you if you were born in Montana. I'll try, but it would mean something if you would help as well. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.